Namaste students, welcome to biology class. So in today's class let us discuss about division Pteridophyta. The members of division Pteridophyta are commonly called as pteridophytes, and these pteridophytes are considered as the first land plants or the terrestrial plants to have vascular tissues. Okay, they are the first terrestrial plants to have vascular tissues. You know that vascular tissues are those tissues that help in conduction of water and food. So those tissues are xylem and phloem. Xylem is a water conducting tissue and phloem is a food conducting tissue. So these pteridophytes are referred to as the first terrestrial plants to have well differentiated xylem and phloem tissue. So they are called plants having vascular tissue. Okay. Now the habitat of pteridophytes. Pteridophytes are most commonly found in cool, damp, shady areas. They are most commonly found in cool, damp and shady areas. Now coming to the dominant plant body of pteridophytes. The dominant plant body of pteridophyte is a sporophyte. Remember in the previous divisions that we have discussed, it may be bryophytes or algae. The dominant plant body we saw there was gametophyte. In bryophytes, the dominant plant body is gametophyte. But in case of pteridophytes, the dominant plant body is sporophyte. And you know that sporophyte is a diploid plant body. Sporophyte is a diploid plant body. So these sporophytes have well differentiated root, stem and leaves. These sporophytes have well differentiated or two roots, stems and leaves. And these leaves may be smaller in size or they may be larger in size. In case of pteridophytes, the leaves may be smaller or the leaves may be larger in size. So if the leaves are smaller, the leaves are referred to as microphylls. Micro refers to small. Microphylls are smaller leaves. If the leaves are larger, they are referred to as macrophylls. So remember the terminologies microphylls and macrophylls. Macro are the larger leaves. Microphylls are the smaller leaves. So macrophylls are mainly seen in ferns like Dryopteris. There are macrophylls. You might have seen such plant, Dryopteris, or it is commonly called as fern. So these ferns have larger leaves. They are called as macrophylls. Whereas in case of plants like Selaginella, they have got very small leaves called as microphylls. And the leaves may have spore-bearing structure known as sporangia, or they may not be having spore-bearing structures. Okay? So if the leaf has spore-bearing structure in it, or if the leaf has sporangia arranged in it, then such a leaf is known as sporophyll. Sporophyll. So there are certain ferns or certain pteridophytes which have got leaves, and leaves are subtended with sporangia. You know that sporangia is spore-bearing structure. The leaves that are subtended with spore-bearing structures or sporangia are called as sporophylls. They are called as sporophylls. So pteridophytes have sporophylls. Sporophylls are the leaves that are subtended with spore-bearing structures known as sporangia. Okay? So in some of the pteridophytes, the sporophylls, that is the leaves having spore-bearing structures or leaves having sporangia, may be confined to one particular part of the plant body, and in certain pteridophytes they may be found in all along the length of the plant body. Okay? For example, in case of ferns like Dryopteris, in case of Dryopteris or ferns, all the leaves of the plant body, all the mature leaves of the plant body, they have got spore-bearing structure or sporangia which are found on the lower surface of the leaf. Okay? If you find ferns, you can just observe the leaf of the fern. The lower side of the leaf of the fern mainly has spore-bearing structures or the structures which we commonly call it as sori or sorus. Sori. On the lower side of the leaf, there are many small structures attached to the lower surface of the leaf known as sorus or sorer. Sori. Sori is a plural form, sorus is a singular form. Many such sori are found attached to the lower surface of the leaf. Okay? Many such sori are found attached to the lower surface of the leaf. So in case of Dryopteris, all along the length of the plant body, especially on the mature leaves, there are spore bearing structures or sporophylls. Sporophylls are found all along the length of the plant body. Whereas in case of some of the pteridophytes like Equisetum, the spore bearing leaves, that is sporophylls, are confined only to the tip of the plant body. Sporophylls are mainly arranged together to form cones or strobilus. Cone or strobilus. Cone or strobilus. Remember that in case of plants like ferns or Dryopteris, the spore bearing leaves may be found all along the length of the plant body, whereas in case of plants or pteridophytes like Equisetum, the spore bearing structures which are found attached to the leaves, that is sporophylls. Sporophylls are mainly grouped together to form a structure known as cone or strobilus. Strobilus is a singular form, strobili is the plural form. Okay? So sporophylls may be found all along the length of the plant body, or sporophyll may be arranged to form a cone or strobilus. Okay. So next let us see what does this sporangia consists of. Okay. So in case of Dryopteris, you have to remember that each sorus has got many sporangia inside it, and inside each sporangia large number of spores are formed. Okay, large number of spores are formed. So in each sporangium, so sporangia is a plural form, sporangium is a singular form. Each sporangium has got many spore mother cells. Each sporangium has many spore mother cells. Spore mother cells are diploid. So these spore mother cells undergo reductional division or meiosis to form haploid spores. Remember that spore mother cells are diploid. They undergo reductional division to form haploid spores. So large number of haploid spores are formed inside the sporangium. So once the sporangium releases the spores, or once the sporangium ruptures and spores are dispersed, these spores fall on a suitable substratum and then germinate into a gametophyte. Okay, haploid spores, once they are dispersed or released from the sporangium, they fall on a suitable substratum and germinate into a new plant body known as gametophyte. So gametophyte is a haploid plant body. Gametophyte is a haploid plant body. Haploid plant body. In case of pteridophytes, these gametophytes, they are green, photosynthetic, multicellular thalloid structures. So how is the gametophyte of pteridophyte? The gametophyte of a pteridophyte is green, photosynthetic, multicellular and thalloid structure, which is called as prothallus. It is called as prothallus. So prothallus is the gametophyte of a pteridophyte. Okay, prothallus is the gametophyte of a pteridophyte. Okay, so next let us discuss about the structure of prothallus. We have noted down how a prothallus or a gametophyte is formed, right? So you know that the dominant plant body is sporophyte. Sporophyte has spore bearing structures known as sporangia. Sporangia are subtended in the leaves known as sporophylls, and this sporangia produces large number of spores. are released, and these spores, haploid spores that are released, germinate into a new plant body known as gametophyte. And in case of pteridophytes, the gametophytes are small multicellular green photosynthetic thalloid structures and are called prothallus. So this is how the prothallus of the pteridophytes. Okay, so pteridophytes have a prothallus which is thalloid, multicellular, green and very small structures. So this prothallus is attached to the substratum with the help of rhizoids, multicellular rhizoids. And prothallus has, since it is a gametophyte, it produces gametes inside the sex organs. So the gametophyte or prothallus of pteridophytes bears sex organs. The male sex organs found in the gametophyte are antheridia. The female sex organs that are found in the prothallus or the gametophyte is archegonium. It is inside the antheridia, male gametes are formed, and the male gametes are antherozoids. And inside the archegonium, that is a female sex organ, female gametes are formed, they are egg cell. Female gamete is egg cell. Okay? So this prothallus is small multicellular green photosynthetic thalloid structure which bears the sex organs. Inside the sex organs, male and female gametes are formed. Okay? So these prothallus, they have specific restricted requirement. This is very important to remember. This prothallus has specific restricted requirement. What is the specific restricted requirement? It needs water for fertilization. Okay? That specific requirement is it needs water for fertilization. So, because of this specific restricted requirement, that is, it needs water for fertilization to take place, it usually grows in cool, damp, moist, shady areas. Okay? It grows in cool, damp, moist, shady areas. Okay? And the spread of these pteridophytes have been limited. The spread of these pteridophytes is limited. So why it is limited? Because it needs water for fertilization. So it can grow well only in cool, damp, moist areas. Okay? So because of this specific restricted requirement, they are the plants, that is pteridophytes, are mainly restricted to very narrow geographical area. They are not found widespread all over the area. They are found only in restricted geographical areas. Okay. Now let us discuss about the mode of sexual reproduction in case of pteridophytes. You know that the gametophytic plant body has the sex organs. The gametophytic plant body has male and female sex organs. These male and female sex organs produce male and female gametes respectively. The male gamete is antherozoid, female gamete is egg cell. And you know that the antherozoids are flagellated. They are motile gametes. These motile gametes are released from the antheridium. So once they are released from the antheridium, they reach the neck of the archegonium. They enter the archegonium and fuse with the egg cell. So during sexual reproduction, the male gamete antherozoid, fuses with the egg cell, fuses with the female gamete, that is egg cell, to form zygote. You know that zygote is diploid because of fusion of two haploid cells. Male gamete is haploid, female gamete is haploid. Two haploid cells fuse together to form a diploid cell, that is zygote. Okay. So this zygote is formed inside the female sex organ, that is archegonium. So now the zygote then develops into a new plant body known as sporophyte. This zygote develops into a new plant body known as sporophyte. So you know that sporophyte is a diploid plant body. Diploid plant body which is dominant. In case of pteridophytes, it is a dominant plant body. Okay. So So zygote then develops into a diploid plant body known as sporophyte. And one more thing you have to remember here is the zygote directly do not develop into sporophyte. It first develops into a structure known as embryo. Zygote first develops into embryo and then the embryo develops into a new plant body. Its zygote first develops into embryo then differentiates or develops into a new plant body known as sporophyte. So the previous divisions under kingdom Plantae we have studied about algae as well as bryophytes. In algae and bryophytes we have not come across the development of embryo from the zygote, right? We have not come across embryo that is developed from the zygote. It is in bryophytes that zygote develops into embryo and embryo develops into a new plant body known as sporophyte. Okay, so this feature of development of zygote to embryo forms a precursor for seed habits. So this forms a precursor of seed habits. So which are those seed habits? Remember the term habit. Habit is plant body. Which are those plants that produce seeds? The plants that produce seeds are gymnosperms and angiosperms. So pteridophytes forms the precursors of gymnosperms and angiosperms. Okay, and this is very essential for evolution. From the pteridophytes, the new plants have been evolved, or pteridophytes form the precursor of seed habit, and the seed habits are nothing but gymnosperms and angiosperms. And one more thing you have to remember in pteridophytes is there are certain pteridophytes which produce a similar kind of spores, and there are certain pteridophytes which produce different kinds of spores. So we know that the dominant plant body in case of pteridophytes is sporophyte. Sporophyte has sporophylls, that is the leaves that are subtended with sporangia, and inside the sporangia spores are formed. So in certain pteridophytes similar kind of spores are formed, in certain pteridophytes different kinds of spores are formed. So based on this, pteridophytes can be homosporous or they can be heterosporous. Remember that pteridophytes can be homosporous or pteridophytes can be heterosporous. There are certain pteridophytes which produce similar kind of spores. Homo refers to similar kind of spores. So those plants are considered as homosporous pteridophytes. For example, Pteris, Adiantum, they are homosporous. They produce only single kind of spores. But there are certain pteridophytes which produce different kinds of spores. So that's why they are named as heterosporous. Term hetero refers to different, sporous, spore forming. So heterosporous pteridophytes are those pteridophytes which produce different kinds of spores. For example, Salvinia, Selaginella are some of the pteridophytes which produce different kinds of spores. Now we will see what are those different kinds of spores. Generally, the heterosporous pteridophytes produce two different kinds of spores. They are macrospores or megaspores. Macrospores or megaspores and microspores. Microspores. So here the name itself indicates based on the size of the spores. Macrospores are larger spores, microspores are smaller spores. So heterosporous pteridophytes are those plants which produce two different sized spores. Some spores are smaller in size and they are called microspores. Some spores are larger in size and they are called macrospores or megaspores. Okay? And these microspores develop into a plant body. You know that spores develop into a plant body known as gametophyte. In case of heterosporous plants, the microspores that are formed will develop into male gametophyte. They will develop into male gametophyte, whereas the macrospores or megaspores will develop into female gametophyte. So here we have observed an example of a gametophyte or prothallus which has both male and female sex organs, right? Whereas there are certain pteridophytes which produce two different kinds of spores and they produce two different kinds of gametophytes. The male gametophyte bears only antheridia, the female gametophyte bears only archegonium. Okay? The antheridia or antheridium produces large number of antherozoids. Antherozoids are released. The antherozoids reach the neck of the archegonium, enter the archegonium, fuse with the egg cell to form zygote. Zygote develops into embryo and then the embryo develops into a new plant body known as sporophyte. And even in the life cycle of pteridophytes, we have come across two types of generation. Which are those two generation? Haploid generation and diploid generation. Which is the haploid generation? Gametophytic generation is the haploid generation. Sporophytic generation is the diploid generation. And always sporophytic generation and gametophytic generation come alternate to each other in the life cycle of pteridophytes. So pteridophytes also exhibit alternation of generation. Okay. So these are the general characteristic features of pteridophytes. So next we have to discuss about various classes of pteridophytes with some examples. Now let us discuss about the classes of pteridophytes. So division Pteridophyta is categorized into four classes. They are class Psilopsida, class Lycopsida, Sphenopsida and Pteropsida. Okay. So division Pteridophyta is categorized into four classes: Psilopsida, Lycopsida, Sphenopsida and Pteropsida. Psilopsida includes some of the pteridophytes like Psilotum, and there are certain pteridophytes which are included under Psilopsida. They are considered to be found in fossil state. Okay, many are found to be in fossil state. So this is one of the living Psilopsida, living member of Psilopsida, that is Psilotum. Okay. Next, Lycopsida includes members like Lycopodium, Selaginella, Lycopodium and Selaginella. And Sphenopsida includes some of the pteridophytes called Equisetum. We have already discussed about the structure of Equisetum, right? Equisetum has cones or strobilus. So they are commonly called as horsetail ferns or horsetails because of their specific structure, cone-like formation. They are called as horsetails. And Pteropsida includes some of the ferns. They are commonly called as ferns, and they include Dryopteris, Pteris, Nephrolipis, Adiantum, etc. And you know that the Adiantum is commonly called as walking fern. Adiantum is walking fern. Okay, so these are the classes of pteridophytes or Pteridophyta and the examples. So here no need to study about the general characteristic features of each class. Okay, only they have mentioned about the classes as well as the examples under each class.
Now, let us note down some of the examples under various classes of division Pteridophyta. As we have discussed earlier, division Pteridophyta includes four different classes. They are class Psilopsida, class Lycopsida, class Sphenopsida and class Pteropsida. First, let us note down some of the examples under class Psilopsida. Members of class Psilopsida are primitive plants. They do not have root, but they have got rhizoids. Some of the examples included under Psilopsida are Psilotum, Rhynia, Horneophyton, Mesopteris. Among these, Psilotum and Mesopteris are the living forms of Psilopsida members, whereas Rhynia and Horneophyton are the fossil forms or the fossil genera. Now let us note down some of the examples under Lycopsida. The members of Lycopsida have differentiated plant body. They are homosporous and there are some members under Lycopsida which are heterosporous. For example, Selaginella, Lycopodium. You can observe the image of Selaginella and Lycopodium. Next, let us note down the example of class Spenopsida. The members of class Spenopsida, majority of them are fossils except Equisetum. Equisetum has a differentiated plant body, and you can observe here the image of the cones formed in the Equisetum. Now, note down the members of class Pteropsida. Members of Pteropsida are most widely distributed vascular plants. They are commonly called as ferns. You can observe some of the images of ferns. They may be Pteris, Marsilia, Nephrolepis, etc. And you can observe here the leaves of the ferns, which shows sporangia bearing structures which are arranged on the lower side of the leaf. And such leaves which have got spore bearing structures or which has got sporangia on their leaves as sporophylls. Now let us note down the life cycle of pteridophytes. In pteridophytes, the dominant plant body is sporophyte. The sporophyte has large number of sporangia which produces spores. Within the sporangia, there are many spore mother cells which undergo meiosis to form haploid spores. These spores then germinate into a haploid plant body known as gametophyte. The gametophyte of pteridophytes are called prothallus, which includes male and female sex organs. The male sex organ is antheridium, female sex organ is archegonium. The male sex organ produces male gametes that are antherozoids, and the female sex organ produces female gamete that is egg cell. During fertilization, the male gamete fuses with the female gamete to form zygote, which is diploid. The zygote is formed inside the archegonium. Now, the zygote develops into an embryo, and embryo develops into a new plant body known as sporophyte. So, in the life cycle of pteridophyte, the two generations, that is the sporophyte generation as well as the gametophyte generation, occur alternate to each other. That's why pteridophytes also exhibit alternation of generation. So next,
about the economic importance of pteridophytes. So pteridophytes are used as source of food. Some of the pteridophytes are used as source of food. For example, pteridophyte named Marsilia. Pteridophyte named Marsilia. It is used as a source of food. Especially, it is used as source of food by animals, and even there are certain pteridophytes which are used as source of food even by the human beings. Okay. So then pteridophytes are good soil binders. Okay. The growth of the pteridophytes mainly they firmly bind to the soil. Even in the hilly or slopy areas also they bind firmly to the soil and thus prevent soil erosion. Since they are good soil binders, they mainly prevent soil erosion. Now, there are certain pteridophytes which form symbiotic association with certain other organisms and help in nitrogen fixation. For example, there is a fern or pteridophyte called as water fern. Named Azolla. Water fern named Azolla. So this water fern Azolla forms a symbiotic association with cyanobacteria like Anabaena and then help in nitrogen fixation. fixation. They form symbiotic association with some of the cyanobacteria and help in nitrogen fixation. And there are certain pteridophytes which are known for its medicinal value. Okay? For example, pteridophytes like Dryopteris. Especially the rhizome part of the Dryopteris. Rhizome of the Dryopteris is mainly used for extraction of medicinal compounds. Okay? So it has got medicinal value. And most of the ferns or most of the bryophytes are grown in garden mainly for their ornamental value, because they have got different patterns of leaf, and because of their beautiful leaves or different patterns of leaves, they are mainly grown as ornamental plants in gardens. So these are some of the economic importance of pteridophytes. So we have discussed about the pteridophytes, general characteristic features of pteridophytes, about the classes of pteridophytes, the examples under each class of pteridophytes, as well as the economic importance of pteridophytes. So next we have to discuss about the division Gymnospermae and division Angiospermae.